Tweet that. Sixers are back, baby. Eagles, best team in football. I don't know. Phillies, final 10. We got so much happening. We're back to being live here on Trending the AM. It starts in 30 seconds.
Holding, gets around in front.
And Philadelphia has it.
And good morning, everybody. Welcome to Trending in the AM right here on DSM Media Live. Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. You know the drill. Like, share, retweet, follow on all social media platforms. Make sure you share it out. And if you want to get interactive with the show, make sure you head over to the DSM Media YouTube page. It's the best place to hit like, to subscribe, and to get your comments and thoughts heard, like these examples I've got up here on the screen. We greatly appreciate it. And if you're watching, even if you just drop a let's go or good morning, helps us build up the algorithm, gets us up higher on the charts, we'd greatly appreciate it. I'm your host, Phil Stifle, at Bearded Knowledge. Joining me today is my main man, Dylan Davis, at DylanJD98. Good morning, Dylan. And how you doing today?
What's going on, Phil? Long time no talk. Is this your first live trending since you've been back?
This is my first live trending since I've been back. It's
an honor.
Weird.
It's an honor.
I'm not fan of doing the pre-recorded show, because then I don't get the interaction with the people.
Right.
And the energy, even if nobody's interacting, the energy of being live.
You feel like you're talking to yourself.
Yeah, exactly. But you also kind of have this, if I screw up and it's pre-recorded, I could just delete it and start all over again.
Yeah.
You
got a safety net.
Yeah, there's no safety net when you're going live. So I thoroughly enjoy the live aspect of it. But we got lots to talk about. So I don't want to waste too much time with pleasantries. Hi, nice to see you again, Dylan. Thanks for filling in with me. I don't care. Let's get right to work here today, okay? Sixers, media day yesterday. Sixers are back. Training camp, first practice today. Not much exciting, as expected, came out of the media day yesterday. This team is all business for the most part. There's a lot of fun. There's a lot of laughing, a lot of goofing around going on. But as an initial starting point, Dylan, are you ready for what I'm going to say is going to be one massive roller coaster of a season with the Sixers?
Yeah, man. But here's the thing. When we're talking roller coaster, I think you're going to have more highs than lows with this team. Now, obviously, within this Sixers organization, there always seems to be something going on the outside of things, right? And you already got horny Doc up at 3 a.m. in the morning,
Dude, I totally forgot about that. I was in Mexico with that. That's great. So that is fantastic.
So it seemed like, oh man, here comes something else with PR with this team. But to me, that what they did this offseason, we've talked about the additions and such, but a lot of veteran leadership was brought in, a lot of playoff experience, at least from PJ Tucker, was brought in. Montrezl Harrell has some playoff experience as well. It just seems to me like within this roller coaster we're going to experience, I think people are underestimating how consistently good this Sixers team is going to be this season. And I think, like I said, you're going to have a steady incline most of the season. Most of your way, you're going to be going up. You might hit a little dip here and there, but most of the season, you're going to have a steady this way up that hill.
So it's funny because I kind of am. Originally, I was thinking that. And then in the DSM media group chat yesterday, Parcero put a little comment in there. It got my mind working. Are we overhyping this team? Did we really do that much this offseason to make that much of a difference in a season? Let's be honest. The Celtics, they've got their, Udoka situation going on, but talent-wise on paper, that's still a talented team. You got the Bucks, still a really good team, obviously. You got the Heat, still really good. The timing, you just look at the Eastern Conference. It's a really good conference.
Mm-hmm.
So did they do enough? Because you think about PJ Tucker, he's going to bring that tenacity, that energy, that playoff experience, everything that you just named. But it's still going to come down to Joel Embiid, James Harden, Tyrese Maxey, the big four. I'm not calling it a big three. I'm calling it the big four. It's still going to come down to those four. And it's the same four that we had last year. And there's one common
Right.
thing that I struggled with last year, I struggled with the year before, and I'm still going to struggle with this year. And it's the guy that's leading the charge, and that's Glenn Rivers. He's got to earn that Doc title back to me this year. But to me, it's like, did these moves?
Would you ask him that question?
What?
Would you ask it? Would you ask Pop that question?
Yeah, I would.
Here.
I have no shame. I'll ask it. I won't call him Pop if he fails. I think even Popovich has lost the nickname Pop. He's Greg Popovich again.
He had some crazy shit to say at his media day as well.
I didn't hear that. But you see what I'm saying? Like, did we do enough to really make that drastic of an improvement to think that, like, right now, as Eagles fans, we're like, all right, the Eagles, they're flying high right now. They look like one of the best teams in football. Did the Sixers do enough to really? Is PJ Tucker, is Montrezl Harrell that much of needle movers?
So here's the thing, right? I don't think anything you could possibly do outside of when everyone was on their hands and knees begging for like a Kevin Durant trade. There's nothing you could do to elevate yourself to a level where you are the clear favorites over the 3 or 4 or so teams you named in the conference. The conference, they're just that talented. The talent is that spread out. You have a top 4 or 5, seeds here where all of them could win close to 60 games, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. The thing that everyone wants to do with this roster is, okay, well, before the deadline last year, we all thought that the Sixers will be in the conversation. If you're in the conversation, you have a chance. That was before the deadline. And what's one thing everyone wants to do? A needle mover, right? Like, as you just mentioned, go out, get a superstar. Well, they go out, they trade for James Harden, and now he signs back this offseason for cheap. He's healthy, blah, blah. You already have that. So then you're not really going to – so now this offseason, you're not really going to go out and move for another superstar, a needle mover. You have to fill in the holes. And how well you fill in the holes is going to be a big question mark. I think the Sixers could potentially be the most complete team out of all the teams you mentioned. That's something we couldn't say last year. Actually, we said the reverse. The Sixers are the shallowest. The Sixers are the weakest team coming off the bench, right? I think it's reversed now. When you talk about PJ Tucker, and we can get into the conversation of who should start the 3, Getting brought up a great point in the group chat. It's something that I've said before, but you have PJ Tucker, Montrezl Harrell, DeAnthony Melton, Daniel House Jr. You have 4 or 5 pieces now off the bench where we haven't even talked about a Shake Milton or Matisse Thybulle, right? So, yeah, I think they've done enough because you filled in all the holes, and you haven't just filled them with, you haven't just wrapped up a paper towel and stuck it in a hole to stop the water from coming in. You've put a cog in there, and it can be a long-term solution now. And yeah, I think they've done enough because I think
I understand that they weren't going to get another needle mover, and that's not what I was getting at. It's what I'm getting at is you look at this roster. Obviously, right now James Harden seems healthy. Joel Embiid, I mean, he just sat on his couch and watched TV all off season. I love it. Which I got a really great Joel Embiid quote I want to read in a minute. Mm-hmm. You got PJ Tucker, 37. Montrezl Harrell is getting up there in age. There's a lot of talk about bringing Jay Crowder in here, which I'd like. That rumor started, to pick up steam when I was in Mexico. A guy I would love. We don't know what the starting rotation. All these things that we're talking about all come down to one thing, and that's Glenn Rivers managing this team. This is a team I don't think we're going to have, we're going to have 5 different starting lineups this year because he's going to have to manage, load management too, if you want to use that term, Joel Embiid. He's going to have to do that with James Harden. PJ Tucker, he's coming off the bench to start the season. Now, come playoff time, maybe he starts, but at 37 years old, you don't want to burn him out. We talk about last year, George Niang, how tired, how overused he was, how overused early he was. Yeah. By the end of the season, he had no legs. Mm-hmm. So, if he got if Glenn Rivers wasn't able to manage George Niang properly, what's to say he's going to be able to manage PJ Tucker or 32-year-old James Harden correctly? So my question mark isn't on the roster that was constructed. It's on the man. And again, I'm not trying to be negative. It's the first day of camp today. I'm excited. This is still a playoff and title contending team, no doubt. It just has one huge question mark for me that maybe some people are overhyping this team, and that's Glenn Rivers.
So, like you mentioned Doc, and can he is he going to misuse these guys off the bench? And I'll allude it to the Phillies kind of bullpen situation, right? It's like last year, yes, don't get me wrong, there was misuse of the bench, and the way you described George Niang was perfect. By the two playoff series, he had no legs. He was no longer a threat from beyond the arc, it felt like. But that's because what was the alternative? The alternative early on in the season was playing a young, inexperienced B-ball Paul, who they didn't want to play. It's playing Furkan Korkmaz, it's playing Isaiah Joe, whereas now he's got things to work with. So the way I look at Doc is I'm not worried about him regular season. Sure, there's some of those question marks in terms of do you overuse guys off of a bench? Sure. But in terms of regular season, the Sixers are going to win a lot of games. We're going to have to wait till April or May to have our final decision on what Doc Rivers is going to be going forward, because all of a sudden it is now like it's a Jalen Hurts situation. There's no more excuses for Doc, right? The talent's all there. It's Jonathan Gannon. So when you get to the playoffs, if the same mistakes are still coming about, if you are a second round exit with all this talent, Doc Rivers is most likely gone, because what's the one common denominator is the coach again. Especially if those mistakes show up. But yeah, man, we're just gonna have to wait months to find out if Doc is a complete negative.
So onto that point that was brought up into the group chat about the starting rotation to start the season. Mm-hmm. It seems like Matisse is going to be here. Either Daryl Morey and Glenn Rivers are like really just overly hyping Matisse up for a trade value wise for a Jay Crowder, or maybe he's really put the effort in, the work in, and maybe Matisse is improved this year. I am still at this point starting Matisse in the starting five over PJ Tucker. Everybody just assumes PJ Tucker is going to be inserted into that starting rotation. I think it creates some really bad defensive matchups if you do that with Tucker and Tobias on the court at the same time. I'm 100% on board with Matisse starting, and I'm curious to your thoughts, because I'm a Jay Crowder fan. Since the process was over and we've been a playoff team, Jay Crowder is a guy I've wanted every trade deadline that he was available, which was quite a few times. That was a guy I wanted the Sixers to target. A guy that could score off the bench, a guy that could start, he could shoot, he could play. He's another PJ Tucker, Montrezl Harrell, another one of those guys that we've been lacking. At this point, I'd rather roll with what we got and see if it works, and then you use the Matisse trade chip if it's not working at the deadline to bring in Crowder or somebody else like Crowder. Are you okay with Matisse starting, and are you okay keeping the team as is at this point and not making any more moves?
So real quick, I do think the team stays as is right now. I think it was Shams that came out and said he gave like 4 teams for Jay Crowder, and the Sixers were not involved. And then I believe Paul Hudrick, who covers the Sixers, does a really great job, came out and said that the Sixers are not interested in Jay Crowder at the moment. So I do think you're going to get the same team you have right now. But yes, 100%. It's something I said probably since they started acquiring this team. It's that Matisse Thybulle should and will start. And here's why. I'm not banging the drum for Matisse Thybulle specifically. I'm talking about fit here. And last season, that starting five, I'm talking Tyrese Maxey, Tobias Harris, Joel Embiid, James Harden, and Matisse Thybulle, had the best offensive rating of any five across the NBA. What does Matisse Thybulle bring to the floor at the 3 position? Well, he can guard the other team's best defender. We know what he can bring defensively and energy-wise, off the bench. So you plug that in the starting lineup. Guess what you don't need, Phil? You don't need him to score mixed in between those other 4 guys, right? Whereas then you bring the vet PJ Tucker. And here's the thing. PJ Tucker at this point is most likely a 4. Tobias Harris has transitioned greatly to a 4. I do not want to see 6'8", 6'9" Tobias Harris, slower Tobias Harris, go back to a 3 and have to guard other teams, small forwards. And to me, they're going to have similar roles, right? Like PJ Tucker, where is he most effective offensively? In the corner. Mm-hmm. Where has Doc kind of slid Tobias in this mix of Joel, Maxey, and Harden last year? In the corner. And again brought up a great point in the group chat. Basically, like Tobias having this whole offseason in the same system, knowing his role now, how it's changed, less ball in his hands, more catch and shoot type of stuff. I hope to see his percentages, his numbers go up. But yeah, like Matisse Thybulle, the one thing that he struggles with, and I'm not saying he's not going to get the ball offensively. And my man, when you're open from the corner or when you're open from the wing in transition, you better shoot. And God, you better be at least 34, 35% this year. Okay. That's all I'm going to say. But it limits what you need him to do. Whereas if you bring him off the bench, you kind of need some scoring coming off the bench. So use his defense in the starting lineup, use his spacing in the starting lineup, and you have the other four to get you buckets. PJ Tucker can come off the bench, and you can do different things. You can play small ball 5. If Tobias isn't in the lineup, you can play Tucker at the 3 with someone else at the 4. You can do a lot of different things. So
there's a lot of creativity that Doc Rivers. See, I just said it. Damn it! I'm already checking. Yeah, there's a lot of creativity that he could use with this lineup as it is, and it's obviously Harden, Embiid, Maxey. Well, first off, both Embiid and Harden, you could kind of tell in the way they're talking, they want to defer as much of the offense to Tyrese Maxey as they want him to break out and be, I'm not saying the leading scorer per se, but a much more aggressive than we already seen Tyrese Maxey. And I think an aggressive Maxey is a better Maxey. The one thing though, and I don't know if you caught this part of Joel's press conference yesterday, is the other side of the ball, the defensive side of the ball. And I'm going to read this quote. Our focus is on defense, Embiid said. We aim to be the best defensive team in the league, and that's going to take all of us. I've got to get back to not waiting until the fourth quarter to be that guy and doing it all game. If you get stops, you're able to run, you're able to get in transition and get Tyrese going. I mean, we talk about how great of an offensive team this can be, but if Joel Embiid is committed on the defensive side, this could be one of the best defensive teams in the league, right?
And it's not a knock on Joel Embiid, but it's what your eyes tell you. I'm not knocking his effort or his want to, but when the man himself comes out and says it, like you can see at times, even as dominant as he is, even when he's our MVP, and he could do no wrong, there are times he
not our MVP,
lackadaisical.
The MVP.
Right.
The MVP.
Looks a little lackadaisical on the defensive end in the second quarter. But if he himself is saying it and he's dedicated to putting in the work on the defensive side, quarters 1 through 4, I think you see an elevated side of the Sixers team you haven't really seen before. But him hyping up Maxey, it's great, man. But can I take it a step further too? And it wasn't media day, but it was a clip. It was an interview from last week, and I did it here on Trending when you were away, when I was filling in for you. Daryl Morey was on John Clark's podcast.
Okay.
And there were 2 clips I played on the show. And it was he talked about how James Harden was not healthy, but he would never say it last year and blah, what it means to get Harden healthy. And then he came out and said, more so than anything else, the Sixers take another leap. Like, it is most important that Tyrese Maxey takes another leap. So I posed this question. What is more important? What is a bigger piece added to this team? Healthy, semi-throwback, I'm not talking Houston Harden, but semi-throwback James Harden, or an even more elevated Tyrese Maxey? And my answer is James Harden.
Oh, see, I disagree. I think an even more elevated Tyrese Maxey is more important. Because James Harden's going to he's going to get that load management. James Harden at this point,
I get that.
A little bit, even if he's healthier and he's a little bit better than he was with the Sixers last year.
Nah, man, I'm not talking a little bit better.
Right, I know.
I think you see a different James Harden than you saw at the end of last season.
And I agree. I think we do as well. I don't know if you want him to push it too hard, too often when you've got young Tyrese Maxey. Because again, we've got an older, outside of Tyrese Maxey, we have an old team. You want everybody 110% ready to go for the playoffs. And it's funny that question you just posed, because it kind of leads to what I was going to ask you instead. And it's, Joel Embiid obviously can't win the MVP. For some reason, the league won't vote him MVP.
Yeah,
he was the first center to lead the league in scoring since Shaq. I don't even remember what year it was. Oh, averaged over 30 points last year. I almost see him wanting to scale back offensively and defer to Maxey and even James Harden a little bit, so that he doesn't have to put that. I mean, to an extent, effort on offense is more exhausting than effort on defense, in my opinion. the amount of work he has to do on offense to fight through double teams and the hits he takes under the basket wears his body out a little bit more. So it's easier for him to put that effort in on defense.
Right, sit in the paint, rim protect.
Especially if the whole team's bought in on the defensive schemes, and defer offensively a little bit to Maxey and Harden. But I think Maxey taking that leap forward, I think it's more important than James Harden.
So my question to that is like, what is another leap for Maxey? And listen, man, I'm not saying the kid isn't on the verge of becoming a superstar. Like, he's so likable, and the jump he made from year 1 to year 2 is literally like, it's like an anomaly. Like, you just don't see that happen, dude. He shot under 30% coming out of Kentucky from beyond the arc. His first year, he shot like a little over 30. Next thing you know, he's shooting like 43, 44% from three throughout the course of a season. My question is, like, how much weight with these superstars on this team are you actually trying to put on the younger kid? And I'm not saying he can't handle it. I'm not saying he won't rise to the occasion, which he will. But like, what is an elevated Tyrese Maxey? Like,
so first off, elevated Tyrese Maxey is maintaining that shooting percentage. That's number one.
But that's not elevated though.
It is, because to an extent, was that elevated last year shooting percentage? Just
right, you're talking consistency. Yeah,
it's consistency there, but it's the scoring. It's just being more aggressive scoring, not deferring. We talked on this show and other shows at certain times last year, even when he was playing at peak performance, when he was on the court with Joel Embiid, and like I kept saying I wanted it to be when they would rotate their stars. I always wanted Tyrese playing with Tobias because he was less likely to defer. When he was on the court with James Harden or Joel Embiid, he became less aggressive kind of Tyrese.
Be more demanding, be more aggressive.
When you're on the court with Joel Embiid, I want the ball. Give me the ball. Let me be the guy. So it's the personality, and it's the intangibles kind of aspect of it there. That's how he elevates himself. I don't see Joel Embiid averaging 30 points a game this year.
That'll tick down.
I don't know what the record is or what the numbers say in the NBA. I could see all three of those guys all over 20 points. And I don't remember what Tyrese finished last year. What was he at?
I was just going to say that. Maybe a 17, 18.
Yeah. Him getting to 20-plus points a game. Harden was, 20 points a game last year, approximately? Yeah, he's not going to get much more than 22 points a game.
See, I disagree.
I think James Harden could be an MVP caliber player at 22 points a game next year. Him averaging 22, 11, 5 boards, whatever he does, that puts him in the MVP conversation. Joel Embiid at 24, 25 points a game, but playing defensive player of the year type level defense, keeps him in the MVP conversation. Tyrese Maxey, in my opinion, needs to be the second leading scorer on this team.
So, real quick, you mentioned Joel's numbers and puts him in the MVP conversation. Dude, like, I get you're talking more focused defensively, but we already know what he was defensively compared to the guy who won the MVP. And when he when he averaged 31 a year with that defensive presence, they still didn't give a damn. So if he ticks down 6 or 7 points off of that average, they still ain't going to give a damn. So I don't think he's ever going to get the MVP. Sadly.
It's kind of crazy.
It is, man. But here's my thing. So I hear all your points, and I'm not saying it can or won't happen, and then I don't want it to happen. If they all average 20 plus and Tyrese Maxey continues to take a step, that's humongous. My thing is, I think you're already good enough with Joel Embiid, what Tyrese Maxey was last year, with a slight improvement and more consistency, and James Harden being healthy. You mentioned 21, 22 points. Nah, man. James Harden might average 24, 25 points this season. Wow. You think I'm kidding? Like, everyone wanted to throw in the towel with this dude at the end of the playoff series. And no one wanted the excuse, because we don't like excuses here in Philly, right? Right. If you're playing, we're assuming you're healthy. He wasn't, man. He just wasn't. And he had the same injury Chris Paul had, and the timeline and what he's done this all season and the shape he's in. Knock on wood. I'm not saying that hamstring can't come back. I'm not saying another injury won't occur. But if he is fully healthy this year, you are going to see a more confident James Harden with the ball in his hands. You are going to see him finish that floater and at the rim through contact like he wasn't in the playoffs.
That is huge right there.
you're going to see him come around a screen and pop one from 37 feet like he wasn't doing. How many times in the playoffs, Phil, would he get a ball at the top of the key and the defender's sagging off and he's looking? That's not James Harden. He pops that shot 95% of the time when he's open. You will see that again this season. It's just a gut feeling in me. So from my opinion, Maxi's already like doing his part if he's doing what he's doing last year. If Harden elevates back to what I'm talking about here, I think we're underestimating how great that James Harden is a top 5-6 player in the NBA offensively when he's playing at that level. So you pair that with Tyrese Maxey, with Joel Embiid, with the depth. That's the difference maker to me, more so than 22, 23-year-old Tyrese Maxey taking another step.
You know, it's funny. We're sitting here and we're talking about these big three guys here. We're not even talking about Tobias Harris.
It's nice though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's nice that he's in a position where he can thrive now as the fourth star.
Right.
I mean,
and
I don't even want to call him a star,
right.
and he knows, and there's no pressure on him whatsoever. And that's when Tobias Harris is at his best. Can any team run out a big four as deep, if healthy, and everything goes according to plan, as the Sixers? I mean, nobody's got that deep of a starting four.
Yeah, I don't think so. No. And it's a dynamic starting four, isn't it? Like when you talk about the size and then the speed in the backcourt and then the shooting ability 1 through 4 with those guys, like no one has all of that. And then defensively with the anchor with Joel, no one has 4 guys. Someone might have 3 or 4 guys, maybe semi-close in talent, but no one has the range that these 4 have that they can do on both sides of the court. So it is really impressive. And then that's my thing. That's why the depth comes in so big. Like, what is DeAnthony Melton? I know that was your favorite acquisition this offseason.
I love it. And you know what? And most people say, well, who's actually watched Melton play? Well, I did. Because I'm a big John Morant fan, so I watched a lot of Memphis games. Dude, that stretch last year, I think it was like 10 or 12 games that John Morant was hurt and missed. Mm-hmm. And Melton stepped up and started.
Oh, yeah, he was great.
Games. Man, I just kept watching those games like, man, that guy in Sixers, whew, could you imagine? Yeah. I mean, you kind of think about it, at his age, I forget what his contract situation is exactly. I think he's got 2 years left on his deal.
Yeah, I think he's here through more than 1 year,
Yeah, he's definitely locked up through more than 1 year. You got someone like him and Maxey in your backcourt for the next 10 years, depending on how long Harden is, still playing at a peak level for. Man, that backcourt of the Sixers, whew, man, it's.
I feel you.
It makes me horny, like Doc Rivers.
Like Doc.
Dude,
Doc.
When I turned my phone on that morning in Mexico and I saw that news breaking, I was like, dude, this is going to be a good day right here. Yeah.
I can't believe it didn't turn into anything more. Like everyone, they said that someone hacked his Twitter, and that was the end of the conversation.
Like that excuse, and
no one else ran with it. So thank God, like there's no person on Twitter doing their own little background check with like little research here and digging into it, like they did Collargate and
it could have been another Colangelo Burnergate right there.
Yeah, right.
Really easily.
But I'll throw one more at you. Like we talked, DeAnthony Melton's going to be a huge piece off the bench. I agree with you. Like he's my favorite offseason acquisition.
James Harden's going to play only 60, 65 games, even if healthy. You don't want him, even if healthy. You don't want to play more than 65 games. You want to give him his rest.
Well, instead of Shake Milton starting rotation, or Furkan Korkmaz, exactly. Exactly. But
instead of Furkan being a starter,
right. Another guy is the one they just brought in recently, and that's Montrezl Harrell. And I know everyone kind of has this weird vibe on him, and everyone's, Doc's going to use him too much. He felt no. Doc got the most out of him. And guys, this wasn't in 2014, 2015 like it was DeAndre Jordan. This was 2 years ago. Okay. Mm-hmm. So, and I believe Montrezl Harrell is only like 28, 29 years old. He's not old by any stretch of the imagination. He not only does he bring the energy off the bench and the physicality. To me, he's going to be Andre Drummond-esque in the other sense. So we fell in love with Andre Drummond. He was the best center. Like first, Dwight was the best center and backup center Embiid's ever had. Then we kind of got tired of Dwight on the offensive side and the text. Then Drummond comes in. What I mean by Drummond-esque is Drummond dominated the glass. Drummond would have backup center games where he grabbed 15, 16 rebounds. He would start for Embiid and score 20 and 21. Montrezl Harrell is not going to grab that many rebounds. Montrezl Harrell is not going to be a defensive anchor or rim protector like that. Montrezl Harrell is a bucket for his size and for a backup 5. Montrezl Harrell can come off the bench behind Joel Embiid and average double digits, can average 10, 11, 11 and a half points per game, still grab 6 or 7 rebounds in that backup spot. So it's like, I think Philly fans are going to fall in love with that, like in a different sense. We all loved, oh my God, look at this backup center behind Joel where we don't get crushed. I think Trez can help you extend a lead with Embiid off the floor.
That makes sense. I just think the evolution of the backup center in Philly is
it's funny, isn't it?
Go back to Amir Johnson and Al Horford and
Boban.
Boban. I mean, the evolution. We need a graphic made up.
Greg Monroe, dude. We had 3 of them. We had 3 guys.
I forgot Greg Monroe was here for a hot cup of coffee. You know.
Oh, good.
So we got to do a graphic of all the backup centers that Joel Embiid has had since he's been here. All right, I want to wrap up Sixers talk there because I want to talk Phillies and I want to talk Eagles as well. Obviously, it's just the first day of camp. Today's first practice. We got lots. We're gonna keep the basketball.
James Harden weighs 96 pounds, soaking wet.
Yeah, exactly. He lost 100 pounds. That's great.
Dude,
I could use to lose 100 pounds right now. For sure. And I'd still be too big if I lost 100 pounds.
Yeah.
So let's move on. Last night, Monday Night Football, Cowboys beat the Giants.
Oh boy.
That means there are 2 undefeated teams left in football: the Miami Dolphins and our Philadelphia Eagles, who are officially now alone in first place in the division, first place in the conference. So I made a joke yesterday. There's a picture floating around of Howie walking on the sidelines at Washington at that dump of a stadium. Mr. GQ there. Is there anybody cooler looking than Howie Roseman there? I put out there.
Such a nerd.
Dude, he is such a dork. But you know what? He thinks he's GQ 110%.
He does, man.
But, we can overreact to the Eagles and say, hey, they're going to the Super Bowl, whatever. But isn't it an overreaction? And is it too soon to already anoint Howie Roseman Executive of the Year?
I'm going to say no because I don't see that roller coaster we were talking about earlier. Like I don't see that.
Yeah,
nose diving right into the dirt, and the Eagles, finishing like 6-11, 7-10 after this start. So, and with this schedule, not like, yeah, man, he most likely will be, unless they decide to give it to some like trash like the Jets. If the Jets somehow win like 7, right? Oh yeah, there you go. If the Jags win 7 or 8 games, well, they were garbage and now they're this. Well, I mean. So probably, but yes, if the Eagles end up going to like the NFC Championship game, going to the Super Bowl, whatever, off of what they looked like last year in that playoff game, of course. And then obviously we all know about the noise and what Howie was able to put together this offseason. So in my eyes, yeah, he's gonna, if he's not number 1, he'll be number 2 in the conversation at the end of the year. But it's just funny thinking about 3 weeks in.
Yeah, just think of where we're at 3 weeks in.
That's great. So every Monday's nice.
I put a poll on the YouTube community, like under the YouTube community section. Are the Eagles the best team in the NFC? Now I don't know what it is now. Let me double check. Let me swing over to the community tab here. Right now it's only 31 votes in because I just put it up, and still 6% of the people still voted no. They're not the best team in the NFC right now. But the fact that 29 of the 31 votes have said that they are the best right now. Are we jumping the gun a little bit? I mean, let's be honest. First off, the Eagles are no doubt about it the best team in the NFC East.
They're playing like the best team in the NFC at the moment.
Yes, playing like the best team in the NFC. There's no doubt about it that they are the best team in their division.
Right.
I mean, you watch the game Sunday, and then you watch how the Giants and the Cowboys played last night. If they got 9 sacks against Washington, they're going to get 12 sacks against the Giants. They're going to get 14 sacks against the Cowboys. I mean, let's be honest. There's a total different class there in the NFC East.
So, well, yeah, of course. I mean, we all picked them to win the division, and obviously we didn't project Dak going out for weeks at a time, or the Giants starting off 2-0. But, yeah, you never know, but 100% you're right there. But in terms of the NFC as a whole and your poll, they're playing like the best team in the NFC. They're in the conversation, which is something we couldn't have said 2 weeks ago. And in terms of power rankings, which are week to week, they are going to be the number one team out of the NFC, if not the number one team in the NFL with how things are going at the moment. But it's not so open and shut. Because as I mentioned yesterday on Turf Talk, when you look at the LA Rams, they're 2-1, and man, they have not played good football at all through the first 3 weeks. But we know on paper what they are. So, again, maybe it's never coming. Maybe I'm just sitting here sucking my thumb, waiting for the Rams to break out, and it's never going to happen. I don't know, but they're in the conversation. They haven't played their best football. They're 2-1. The Bucs are 2-1. And don't get me wrong, that offense looks bad. And there's serious question marks about that offense, not just this week with all the injuries, but through the first 2 weeks. But that defense might be the best defense, or I'll say it is the best defense right now in the NFL. Tom Brady's still there for the time being, and they are going to get Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Julio Jones back. Their offensive line will be healthy at some point. So it's like we know that storm's coming. But maybe the Bucs still have their own issues. So the Eagles are right now. They're the they're playing like the best team in the NFC.
Yeah, I mean, outside of those teams you mentioned, I was ready to put the 49ers there. Then they laid a clunker on Sunday Night Football.
Yeah.
The Packers. I mean, would they get put 14 points against the Bucs? I mean, the Vikings. Are we really going to say the Vikings, who are technically by tiebreaker in the lead in their division? Come on now. The Bears are 2-1. Are we going to put them there? No. We're not going to put the Cowboys or the Giants ahead of them.
Right. Not putting the Cardinals.
Honestly, outside of the Rams and the Bucs, none of the teams that are 2-1 even remotely fear, like they don't strike fear in me.
Oh, not at all.
That they're going to go on a good run. I go back to it. And where's my sheet here? I got so many notes always on my desk here. It was the stretch when we where's my record here? The stretch when we play the Packers, the Colts, the Titans. I was fearing that 3-game stretch there. I was like, we're going to go 0-3 in that stretch there. Do the Titans, Packers, and Colts strike fear now in the schedule? Honestly, this stretch of the schedule now upcoming starting this week with the Jags, you'll have the Cowboys and whatnot, and the Cardinals. That'll be the most scary stretch now at this point. And I am scared of the Jags this week. We'll get into this later in the week. I am scared of the Jags a little bit. I think we could beat the Jags. I think we will beat the Jags, but it's a scary team. The Cardinals are a mess with Cliff Kingsbury. I said after last year that they should have fired Cliff Kingsbury. They didn't. They're probably regretting that decision right now.
Well, I mean, in his defense, the new Call of Duty the beta came out over the weekend, so Kyler was probably up till 3 a.m. playing, but maybe later.
Who's got more minutes at Call of Duty, him or Ben Simmons?
Oh, well, Ben's got more minutes on Call of Duty than he does in his NBA career.
I know. I saw that stat come out while I was in Mexico too, and good stats came out while I was in Mexico. All the good content came out.
Let me say this. No, I am not. I am the furthest person from the. He's out to dinner. Why isn't he in the gym? He's playing a video game. Why isn't he in the gym? Right. But you have more minutes logged on a video game than you have playing in your career over 5 years or so, bro. That's a stop. That's a problem, but it's neither here nor there. But yeah, man. So for the Eagles, those are the only 2 teams, and those 2 teams they're not as polished as the Eagles right now. And I said this the other day. If Jalen Hurts continues to play this way, the Eagles can beat anybody. I don't just mean the Bucs and the Rams. I mean the Bills and the Chiefs out in the AFC and whoever else you want to throw in the conversation. But it's like maybe the sky is falling with those 2 teams. Maybe they are not the problems just aren't going to be fixed when things come. Like, we don't know, but right now, yes, if I had to say who's the best team in the NFC, it's the Eagles right now. But I don't think it's open and shut as far as they're going to be the best team in the NFC all season long.
Right. No, I agree with you. For as good as I said it yesterday, I said it on the pregame show. I said it last week on shows. I've been tweeting it out. For as good as they are, they're 3-0. Which, first off, on a side note, I can't remember a season where by week 3 there were only 2 undefeated teams. What's that say about the NFL? That there are many, even 0-3 teams. There aren't even that many. There's 1, 2.
There's only one 0-3.
There's only two. There's only 2 undefeated teams and 2 winless
Raiders.
Teams. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but the Texans are 0-1.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Or 0-2-1.
There's so much just mediocrity through the first 3 weeks. Everybody's 1-2 or 2-1 for the most part. That to me, I don't remember a season starting out with that much, just who knows where to go. But the Eagles haven't scratched the surface, and I keep talking about this. I'm gonna just drill in on one point, and it's the lack of second half scoring. I mean, that scares me, concerns me. But the thing is, I can't put my finger, Dylan, on why they just are such a completely different team offensively in the second half. I can't figure it out.
We talked about this last night. Don't get me wrong. It's not a problem until it is a problem, right? So we'll see when there's a closer game. But it's 24-0. The defense isn't letting their foot off Carson Wentz's throat.
Right.
The play calls, everything was different in the second. They had one drive where they tried to throw the ball. They went 3 and out. They went straight back to the run. It's run. They are not trying to swing momentum back in Washington's favor. They did the same thing with Minnesota. If those games become 24-14, 24-17, of course, like a 2-possession game in the third quarter, of course, you're going to see the Eagles offense come back out and start to implement the game plan they had in the first half. But they're just so dominating in the first half. Nick and Shane are just going right to run the ball, punt.
Okay.
Defense. I think the game plan has just changed astronomically in the second half the last 2 weeks, that there's really been no rush to move the ball down the field or score.
That's fair. That's fair. But you look at it, the Lions, the Lions were able to put some points up in the second half. We had to score a little bit there. This week when we go up against the Jaguars, what they put up.
This is going to be a completely different game.
Completely different.
You're not going to have a 24-0 lead.
You're not concerned that this week that the offense isn't going to be able to put it together for 4 quarters, because they're going to need to. No. I don't know what the over-under is. I know it opened as a 7-point line, 7-point favorite. I don't know what the over-under is, but this is a game that could potentially be a 60-plus point game combined between the two teams.
Potentially. But it's crazy because both defenses are playing so good.
That is true. But both offenses are playing pretty elite as well. So it's going to be really – you're going to need to be able to put points on the board in the second half, and they haven't done it since week 1.
Because I just think the game has dictated so much. I think the game has dictated what the game plan is. Mm-hmm. So, like I said, like when you have a 24-0 lead, I just don't think they've really even attempted to move the ball down the field and like
– they did a few times. So, and I brought this up yesterday with Mark on Overreaction Monday. It's like the first half last week. How many times did Jalen Hurts throw beautiful deep balls, right? Mm-hmm. And all the big plays, Devontae Smith, they were all great plays. But every one of those plays, if you go back and rewatch them, there was creativity in the play. Whether there was a guy, you saw the one play where Zach Pascal goes across the middle, draws the guy in. You see that. Great. In the second half, there were plays where just Jalen Hurts, you just had 3 guys just running straight down the field. Jalen Hurts didn't try to do anything. He's like, we're up 24-0. I'm just going to chuck another ball up there. He just
I think that's the simplicity So, but I think that's my point. Like the game plan has changed.
It's almost like they got bored on offense in the second half, and they're just like, let's screw around and play some backyard schoolyard football here and just fling the ball around.
I agree, but at
a bad momentum kind of thing. And again, I'm not trying to be negative. I'm just trying to bring up the one thing that concerns me.
Oh no, it's definitely there. Scotty and I were texting about it during the second half of the game, and in the moment, I'm like, what the F, man? Like, come on. But you sit back and I think about it. But listen, this is just a theory. You never know. But we know how Nick Sirianni is and how close to the vest he is, right? And although you just showed what you do in the first half for 30 minutes, in his mind, if he's up 24-0, I'm not going to give Jacksonville more film. That's just how that's not correct. I'm just saying, like, dude, you hear him in press conferences. He won't tell you who's in or who's banged up because it might tip off the other team, or anything he says might tip off the other team. He could just be like, you know what? We're up 24-0. Our defense is playing great. I'm not showing anything else for them to work with going forward. I don't know if that's the answer, but it could.
It's funny that you say that because it's something that I wanted to talk about yesterday. I couldn't because he doesn't give out any information. I wanted to talk about today. I still don't know. When's the first injury report come out? On Wednesday? Like, I don't know who's banged up. I mean,
me neither.
Devontae Smith took a hard hit, hard fall. Dallas Goedert was out.
Hassan Reddick was on the ground for a second.
Dickerson was out for a little while. Actually, he was out for the whole fourth quarter and all.
Yeah.
I don't know who's banged up and who's not from that game. Who's banged up to the point where we might have to be concerned about next week. And I want to bring up Scotty's comment here. Yeah, I agree with you, Scotty. I'm scared of the Jags in the sense where they might be the best team we've played so far, but Doug Peterson's got them playing over their head already. A team that was that bad last year isn't going to all of a sudden be a 14-win team this year. So I agree. They don't have a Justin Jefferson to worry about. They don't have a Terry McLaurin. I mean, they got Zay Jones and Christian
Kirk. But they're playing extremely well.
They're just playing really well. And Juice Robinson, is playing.
But Trevor Lawrence has looked great.
He has. But he hasn't looked – has he even put up 300 yards yet in a game?
I don't know.
I know he only put up 260 or 270 last week or whatever it was.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not trying to take anything away from him. The thing that scares me the most about the Jaguars game is the intangibles of the Doug Peterson coming back to Philly. And we could close the Eagles talk here with this conversation. I asked Mark this yesterday, and the Eagles conversation I started sending around Howie Roseman, Mr. GQ, the coolest man of the year award winner already, in my opinion. Howie Roseman wants to beat Doug Peterson more. That it means so much to him and Jeffrey Lurie to an extent that he wins because they chose him over Doug Peterson, to an extent there.
Yeah.
Do you think this game means that much to Howie Roseman?
Probably to Howie in his little weasel mind. Yeah. Yeah, of course it does.
You had to throw Howie Roseman a weasel out there.
Of course it does. Come on, man. It's what he had a great offseason. He's still a little weasel. But yeah, no, for sure. But at least that's with Howie. That's all I'll say. And as long as it's with Howie and not with anybody else on the active roster or within the game plan. And by the way, with that being said, Howie better not be anywhere near the defensive or offensive game plan like that was kind of hinted at a few weeks ago.
Again, another thing that happened while I was in Mexico. All the good stuff happened while I was in Mexico.
A couple drama-filled statements while you were in Mexico, man. Can I say one last thing before we move on?
Yeah, absolutely.
I like many other Eagles fans had my doubts about Nick Sirianni when he came in, and then after the first few weeks played out, oh my God, we mostly wanted him gone or close to gone. And then he started talking about Flowers, and we talked about T-shirt gate and everything like that. Listen, man, Nick, I've completely turned I love Nick Sirianni now. I can do without the analogies in his press conference still. And Nick, no offense, when we're talking about the trenches and the defensive line, the offensive line play in your game, I don't need to hear how your 7-year-old son's flag football team won because of their offensive and defensive line play. I don't need to hear how your brothers.
Would you rather that and those analogies and that, or going back to the old school days of Andy Reid talking about ham sandwiches or I got to do better? That's it. That's all you ever got.
Can we just have a normal? Can we just talk about the game?
This is Philly. We either get one extreme or the other from our coaches here. That's
I don't
all
need to hear how about your brother's high school football team won because of this. It's cool, man. I get it. You love your family.
I'll take his press conferences over Andy Reid, Chip Kelly, Doug Peterson, boring old blah.
Oh, sure. And the other thing is he talks way too long. There's no need to answer the questions as long as he does. And you know why he does it? Because he's not saying much and he doesn't want to give anything away. So he's talking longer to make it seem like he's saying something.
Nick Sirianni is like one of those guests you get on a show. We've had a million guests on the show.
When you're playing 15 questions. Yeah.
And you've got 30 minutes and you get through two questions.
4.
Yeah, because the guy just talks and talks and talks.
Not saying much either.
Yeah. Well, let's not say much, but we got 10 minutes left in the show.
Here we go.
And that's a perfect segue because there's 10 games left with the 10 minutes here in the Philly season. I did not time that way. That's just the way it all kind of played out. 10 games left, 1.5 games up. I haven't talked Philly since I've been back. I don't even know, other than the fact that they lost every game while I was in Mexico. I don't even know how they looked or how they performed. On a scale of 1 to 10, what's your confidence meter rating, Dylan, that the Phillies make the playoffs here?
I'll give it an 8. I still believe that they make the playoffs. they did bounce back this past week. Obviously losing to the Marlins and getting swept by the Braves, and then getting your doors blown off by Toronto, and the sky started to fall. They won the next game with Toronto, and they won the first 2 at home against Atlanta. Had a chance in the final game over the weekend, if not for like a 3-hour rain delay, it felt like, to win 3 of 4, but they split. Even though it still felt like a gut punch because you could have taken 3 or 4, but nonetheless, you split with Toronto, you split with Atlanta, and now you kind of get the Cubs and the Nats again. So this is big. You have 10 games left. I think the magic number, the number is at 8 right now, between Phillies wins and Brewer losses.
Mm-hmm.
Man, you look at the next 7 games, 3 in Wrigley and 3 in against the Nats. Just give me 5-2 and let's go home, because all that, like, the Brewers are going to lose. Like, come on, man. Like, let me knock on wood, but the Brewers are going to lose 3 games. They're going to lose 3. So just give me those 5 in the next 2 series. Don't make me have to sweat out a game in Houston. Don't let me do it. Just get the job done. Or hell, man, take 2 or 3 against the Cubs and sweep the Nats. Like, just get the job done now. You're at the home stretch. You're in the playoff spot. You're not on the outside looking in. Get the job done. My confidence level, my meter is at an 8, because there is still some hesitation to that.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the exact. So being up 1.5, I don't know how many we have to win compared to them. I don't know.
Well, it's a combination of us winning. Philly wins and their losses is 8.
Right.
So the Phillies could win 8 and they're in. Phillies could win 6 and the Brewers lose 2 and we're in. So the Brewers, I think the Phillies have to go.
Schedule. I was looking at the Brewers' schedule, and they have an easier schedule, obviously. But what they have is they've got a game against Sandy Alcantara, who's trying to lock up his Cy Young. Zach Gallen for the Diamondbacks, who is one more really good start, maybe against them, locks up the Cy Young. And they've also got a game against Jose Quintana, who, I don't know if you noticed, I mean, he was one of the guys I wanted the Phillies to trade for. We weren't sure. He was a rental, whatever. We got Noah Syndergaard. We know how that worked out. But Jose Quintana, his ERA was right around 4 when the Cardinals traded him. It's 3.03 now on the season. So he's obviously been a huge pickup for the Cardinals.
Yeah.
So there's 3 of their 9 games right there going up against 3. I don't want to use the word 2 stud and 1 really good former stud pitcher. There could be 3 losses right there for the Brewers.
So do they play the Cardinals?
Games? What's that?
They play the Cardinals?
I thought that's what I saw. Maybe who did
Oh no, I'm not saying they don't. I don't know. I'm just asking, because that's big.
Whoever Quintana got traded to is what I meant. Sorry. So let me go back to their thing here. Yeah, they got 2 against the Cardinals today and tomorrow.
That's big. That could be 2 losses right there.
Exactly. So you're looking at potentially 3 to 4 losses right there between those 3 starting pitchers in the Cardinals. That's 3 or 4, and we need 8 is the magic number. That means we can go 5-5.
Yeah, I believe
the Phillies go 5-5.
They should. Well, with 7 of the final 10 being against the Cubs and the Nationals, they better go 5-5. And I'll tell you this, Phil, they need to put their imprint, their fingerprint on it now. And I know it's tough to go into Wrigley and sweep, but we're talking Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola, Ranger Suarez in the series.
Yeah,
go out and win the next 3, and then we have 4 against the Nats. That's 3 or 4. Like, it has to be 3 or 4 there, man. Like, so you'd be talking 6. Brewers lose. So, like, this series huge in Wrigley, and it starts tonight. You have to take it 1 game at a time. Bryce Harper, my man, know you homered the other day. Need you, bud. Need
all I see
Bryce,
on social
MV3.
Media. I haven't watched a Phillies game in 10 days, and all I keep seeing all over social media is how poorly Bryce Harper's been playing since he's been back.
Yeah.
And I had a customer. People come into my pizza shop all the time. They come in for the great pizza. They also come in to talk baseball. And I got this one guy, Andy. He's about 85 years old. He's a retired principal. He just comes in for a small pizza and to talk Phillies with me. And that's the first thing he said yesterday. He came in last night for pizza. He's like, did they bring Bryce Harper back too soon? And I'm like, you might have a point there. Maybe he's not fully
for sure. But I don't want that excuse.
Yeah.
I don't want that excuse because he himself said, I am not coming back just to be a name in the lineup. I'm not coming back until I can be Bryce Harper back in the lineup.
Bryce Harper's going to say that. Bryce Harper's that.
Well, then be healthy when you come back then.
Well, it's not his fault that he's not healthy yet.
No, but then don't come. He has the decision to not come back yet.
But he's the type of player that he's gonna push himself. He's gonna try to come back.
I'm sorry. And does he look healthy? He doesn't. But I'm sorry. I don't care. You need to get to the postseason. That's it. Just get there and see what the hell happens. The city hasn't had it in 11 effing years.
It's fair. I don't know. So
tonight,
your confidence meter's at an 8. I'm just going to say it right now. My confidence meter is not that high. Because you say 5 wins, they got to go 5-5. I think it's going to be a struggle for them to go 5-5. One other thing I wanted to touch on. Has the team given up? Has the team already moved on? And I don't know if you saw this. I think it was Sunday night it got tweeted out or Instagrammed out or whatever. It was Zach Eflin's wife. Did you see that?
No.
So she put a picture up on the screen, or she took a picture from the stadium of him pitching, or whenever it was the last time he pitched. And she put in there, thanks, Philly, for 7 really great years. It's been a pleasure. So to me, that says that the Phillies, well, first off, it says Zach Eflin's not going to come back next year, which is fine. But that to me also says that the Phillies organization or the team, Zach Eflin, doesn't think that he's going to pitch in Philly again this year, which I know we got 10 road games, and then we have to play both or all 3 of our games on the road. To me, does that say anything to you? That somebody's wife is saying that it's been a pleasure, being here, we'll see each other, and she basically said, I forget the exact words, but she basically said, I don't expect to come back to Philly.
Right.
Again.
So I wouldn't take too much out of it because even Tom McCarthy and the announcers were talking a lot how this is the last game. I just think it's the last home game. So I think that was just everyone's mindset that this is the last home game, and no one's thinking 3 weeks into the future that could they possibly be back here again. But I need family members of these athletes to stay off social media and don't not stay off social media, but don't.
That post should have blown up. Honestly, there should have been a lot more said about that. You didn't even see it. You know what I mean? And that to me shows how little it blew up.
Yeah.
That to me, I'd say, hey, it's been a great ride this year. Can't wait till round 2 of the playoffs to be, something, or just eliminate the part. It's been a pleasure. Just share a picture of
all I'll say in your question
your husband's been on this year.
Yeah. In your question of I'll say that Zach Eflin's wife does not resemble the feelings or the emotions of the team. So no, I don't. And I think this team, man, you just saw, listen, it's a marathon. It's 162 games and you're at 152 right now, but you've seen the raw emotion from these guys on this team in June and July and August and early on this month. It's just like, it feels like they're right there. They just have to be crossing their fingers at this point. Just don't tighten up. Don't play. Like we talked about this last week. Don't play tight. You did a good job the past week. Could it have been a little better? Sure. But you split with the Blue Jays and you split with the Braves in 4.
That's a win.
You did a good job. Now go and take advantage of these next 2 series with these bad teams, and let's wrap this shit up and make Houston not even matter, man.
So let's see. So we got 7 games here in the next 6 days. They win 5 of them. It might already be locked up.
That's what I'm saying.
It might already be locked up.
It could. It very well could.
It would be a great feeling to go into Houston and not really need Houston. Houston doesn't need us, but it would be great for us not to need Houston.
Right.
Is there a scenario where that happens? That's possible. Did you hear that Tom McCarthy pulled out of calling Week 4 games for the NFL this Sunday, this upcoming week?
Really?
He works for CBS and Westwood One because there's a chance that they clinch on Sunday, and he does not want to not be in the booth for the Phillies. I read an article on that yesterday.
Love that. Thank you, Tom.
I love that. I love Tom.
Except for when they're not in a position to clinch.
Yeah, no, exactly. All right, we're gonna wrap up Trending in the AM right here on DSM Media right there. Fantastic show today, Dylan. Great conversation. We covered a lot
That's what
of
happens
things.
when all the teams are back, brother.
Exactly.
The Flyers.
Jason will be back tomorrow with me, and I'm going to make sure I drop like 30 seconds of Flyers talk tomorrow.
There you
30
go.
seconds. I guarantee.
Torts making them skate.
I'm committing 30 seconds to Flyers talk tomorrow. Committing it. Even if it's just dead air and dead silence. I don't know.
Crickets.
But it's been great. Everybody, again, make sure you hit the like button. You hit the subscribe button on the YouTube page at DSM Media. We greatly appreciate it. Drop your comments, even if you're watching the show on replay, because it will help us, even if it's just a good morning, hello, great work. Or if you want to just drop a comment that you think we suck, hey, great. It still helps us. You know what I mean?
Suck.
It still bump us. Yeah, you suck. Everybody have a great Tuesday. We'll see what happens today, but we'll be back tomorrow with another Trend in the AM. Go Birds, man, and go Sixers. Tweet that. I need a hashtag. Tweet that.
Ring the bell.
Ring the bell.